So, hi everyone, and welcome to Leveraging Insights and Analytics to Maximize Your Engagement. I'm your host, Anand Rajput, Senior Product Manager at MoEngage. MoEngage is a full stack solution consisting of powerful customer analytics, automated cross channel engagement, and AI driven personalization. And I hope all of you are doing really great and enjoying the session that we are having. So last session was really insightful, and we really got a lot of details about how various different brands and product leaders in the industry are driving their growth. So in continuation with the previous session, we know that growth team product managers do look at into a lot of data. We do see where users are coming from, what they are doing, what they are not doing, what is their funnel looks like, how their retention is, what is their D0, D5, D30 retentions are. And we track almost each and everything that we can. And with this a lot of data, sometimes we it's very easy for us to get lost into the data analysis and have the analysis paralysis. So with today's panel, we will learn that what all metrics are really important for us, and we will learn directly from the product leaders in the companies like Housing, Samsung, and Rapid, that how these metrics are being used to drive the engagement and how these guys see analytics as a core function in driving the growth of their organization. So, without further ado, I'll for our viewers, I'll ask Sandeep, Neeraj, and Shivani to introduce themselves, talk about a little bit about their company and their role and how, and we'll take it forward from there. Over to you, Sandeep.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Anand. Hi everyone. I'm Sangeet. So currently I'm heading the product and design for Elara Group, which essentially owns Housing.com, PropTiger.com, and Makan.com. I've been with the organization for 5 years now. So in terms of what we do, we are both into online and offline property assistance. So right from the search and discovery phase to the sort of end transaction, we pretty much deal across. Previous to this, I did some couple of entrepreneurial stints in PropTech and EdTech. And earlier, I think 5, 6 years back, where the product ecosystem was still not that evolved. I was leading technology at that point in time, and then currently, as I mentioned, heading the product for further growth. Yeah, over to you, Neeraj.
Thanks, Sandeep. Hi, guys. I'm Neeraj Bajaj. I work with Samsung R&D Bangalore. So it's been like 8 years of my experience with Samsung and total 21 years of my experience in industry. So I'm the one of the like a homegrown product manager at Samsung. So I've joined, worked as an engineer, project manager, and program manager, and now transition as a product manager. So you could really see that went through all phases of a product or service development in my career, right? So currently, like I lead a team of product manager at Samsung, focusing primarily on India services, like how we change life of Indian consumers on Samsung devices. So as of now, I'm leading three verticals under my portfolio. One is what we call My Galaxy, which is one of the preloaded service on Samsung devices, catering to entertainment, which drives our engagement to the daily user coming to My Galaxy. And we also have kind of Samsung e-commerce integrated into it, so that consumers who are engaged with entertainment have the ability to purchase Samsung products at best of deals and avail best of loyalty benefits on My Galaxy platform. Additionally, I also lead Samsung Pay, which is a very unique digital payment system service of Samsung, where I'm sure you'll be aware that this is the only service in the world have providing MST and NFC, both kind of modes of payment. And you can, anywhere you go, you can do tap and pay with the Samsung Pay from your phone, right? There's no need to take out your card kind of thing. And of course, the third part I look at is a lot of partnerships with startups and other companies together, how we could come and work with Samsung to really get some additional value to consumers, or how we could earn revenues together. So that's about me. Thanks. Shivani, please.
Hello, everyone. I am product enabler by profession. I would call myself a yogi by aspiration and a diversity enabler by inspiration. What I've been doing for close to a decade in my career is being in the fintech space. I've been lucky to have traveled both across the old economy, legacy bankings, to fast-paced payment startups in the B2C space, and currently as head of product solutions, APAC for Rapid. Rapid is a fintech as a service platform. It's a B2B platform where we help clients and users all over the world to collect or disperse in the choice of the currency they want locally, and of course, real-time payments. My role is threefold at Rapid. One is essentially the sales and pre-sales, where we get the client to interface with our product and go live and start transacting. The other part is I am the regional product manager, which means we have a core product, which is our hub, but we want it to be very, very localized in terms of the region, because we are a global unicorn. We function across Americas, we EMEA, and then Southeast Asia and APAC, right? But the needs of the payment is very, very hyper local. So I work as the core product manager, working very closely with the core product to bring the market product needs across to the core. And the third phase is where I work with the partnerships angle, where we evaluate how our product stack can when merged with the other enablers in the region of fintech, and we bring together a combined solution to the market. So that's my role at Rapid, and I'm looking forward to the session and share some insights.
Sure, Shivani. So I think I'll go to Neeraj first. So Neeraj, as you have multiple different portfolios and various different apps that you look at, so what all the primary engagement metrics is that you're looking at Samsung across various different the verticals that you have mentioned? And do you also track the user path? Do you have a particular I would say milestone in the user path that user should be doing this, and we will qualify them to say engaged user? And how your team do define their goals to align with their engagement metrics that you track?
Okay, good. Anand, I think too many questions in one question.
Yeah.
So let me go first, right? First is what are the key metrics, right? So the metrics typically are very standard, I would say. In general, the common metrics, one is typically what is your engagement scorecard, right? What is your DAO, MAU, right? And typically we also track at stickiness, because really see the user is coming in using the service again, right? The stickiness becomes another metrics to track for us, right? Additionally, we track like retention, which is another key for us to really see that how are we able to retain user week on week or month on month, right? How many transactions user is able to make on a platform, right? How can I add more and more services to users portfolio? Like if I'm a Samsung Pay user, right? Card is only pay, but can I also enable UPI? Can I also enable payments through wallet, right? Can I enable bill payments? So various additional add-on that can add on to the KT of user. Those becomes a key metrics to track for us, right? In terms of coming to second point, right? Okay, apart from this, I think there are some negative matrices which are very important for us, right? How many users are bouncing off? How many users are abandoning their journey for transaction? How many users could not complete their onboarding flow, right? And how many users could not utilize the service on the device? So these are also key matrices that we need to we track on day-to-day life. So coming to second part of the question, what you said is like, what is the key milestone in user path? I think one of the big benefit or maybe the benefit we as Samsung has is most of the services are preloaded on Samsung devices, because it's kind of experience that we are offering to the end user. Hence, it's pre-bundled with your software that device that you buy. But still, we see the awareness is the biggest challenge. We still are not marketing all services so well that people are aware. Still, our focus on marketing has been on device features, which is basic hardware aspects of it, right? Still, software doesn't fall into the biggest marketing campaign, but we have seen an extremely high loyalty with services like Samsung Pay, where a lot of people have seen and come and buy Samsung product because of the Samsung Pay experience they get to use. So in terms of milestone of user path, first is discovery, how the user is able to discover service on the device. Second comes is onboarding, right? How am I able to offer the seamless onboarding so that a user is able to enroll and register and make that first transaction or first content consumption, or something that first is very important for us to make it happen. And after that, of course, retention becomes a critical thing, and how many times user is transacting. We have set the goals, right? If users are transacting, let's say 5 times a card swipe in a month, if I first month, if I were to make it with Samsung Pay users, his retention for next month is kind of assured for us, because he's delighted customer of Samsung Pay by that time now. So that's about the second part. And third part, typically you ask, what are the goals for product teams, right?
Yeah.
So normally these goals for product teams are always a top level. We have a common agreement, what are the focus areas, priorities we have. For example, for My Galaxy, one of the key things that we have, it is a very strong entertainment proposition, offering various vertical of video, music, games, and news, right? And we have a very business enabler plugged into the service, which is like, I can do device exchange, I can buy a new device, anything of that kind, right? So goals for there is a team who focus on entertainment engagement, right? They primarily focus on entertainment proposition of My Galaxy. Their goals would be, how do I get user to more and more session, retention part of it, right? Whereas people who are focusing on the e-commerce vertical in the service are, how do I make the conversion rate possible, how do I maximize the traffic, how do I get from My Galaxy side, let's say, okay. And respect to Samsung Pay as a third service to highlight it, right? The key goals are going to be like, how many users are really availing the service? It's a differentiating experience that we are offering. How many of them are transacting per month, right? So that becomes a very key metrics that each product teams track.
Needed, it was really insightful for me that you not only the positive metrics, but you also do track the negative metrics as you go forward. And we have one question in between. I just want to pose you right away that as we know that I'm also a Samsung user, we already have these apps already installed on our phone. How do we get to open those apps for the very first time?
So there are actually few challenges that we have. One of the biggest, in fact, in past, we used to preload all this experience to user, right? Yeah. But over the past, we realized there is a complaint from users that, okay, you're eating up user memory. And when I buy 64 GB, it's not 64 GB, it is 58 GB or less, right? What we are given now is we are given a small stubs. You click on it and app get installed for you. So this is how you can discover, but app is present on your device, just you click and it gets installed. So that's the simplest way you can discover service on Samsung device.
Okay, so this is how you are driving the like product-led download and the engagement.
That's right.
Yeah. Sangeet, over to you.
Again, I'll try to just like Neeraj, I'll try to go line by line for sake of clarity. The first piece we were talking about was what are some of the engagement metrics we look at housing.com. So I would see as a platform, as a product, we're looking to help customers find the next home, right? Mm-hmm. And as we all know, we have been part of that journey. Finding a home is the most difficult part. Finding a rental home in itself takes 30 days, right? You look at properties, you go visit, you meet brokers, agents, owners as well. See, and the home purchase cycle is even more difficult, right? So many things come into play. So for us, it's very critical. So as compared to, let's say, a food ordering app, right, where sometimes a person is premeditated, right? This is what I want. You just go and do 2-3 clicks and pretty much you're done. For us, time spent on a platform becomes a big piece, right? As sort of like a key engagement metric. Purely because you cannot find a home in 5 minutes. You need to spend time. You need to look at properties, photos, and whatnot. Do your own research. So that's the first piece, and that in itself leads to re-engagement as well. Essentially, because we usually see customers coming. Let's say the rental customers coming at least 8 to 10 times on a platform, right? Yeah. They engage once. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So they keep coming during the 30-45 day cycle. So that's sort of the first piece we look at. The second piece I would say around that would be for us as a business metric as well, how many properties they eventually shortlisted and they connected on, because that gives us a sense that they're finding what they're looking for initially. Mm-hmm. So these are the two broad buckets I would say in terms of engagement metrics. Obviously that it's further slice and dice into different funnels. In terms of milestones across the user journey, I think one thing that we are realizing over time is the first step of the journey is knowing what the user wants, right? So that becomes pretty, important for us because right from, let's say, so unless you know what the user wants, whether it's within the same session or maybe you want to re-engage him down the line, right? Through various channels or just from a thought process perspective. So a lot of filters, suggestion, nudges we have been working on. So the more we know about the user, so that becomes sort of critical step one, that any user who visits us, we know what he's looking at, whether it's an early stage user who does not know, acha, mujhe, so here is my office. That's all I know. I need to find something. I don't know where I want. And then there's a late stage user, right? Who is pretty much zero down. Okay, this is a locality or a society I want my home in. So she's now focusing more on pricing and stuff around that.
Yeah.
So that becomes sort of first step to segment users. And then post that, as I mentioned earlier, how many properties they're viewing, what sort of how many properties they're connecting on. That gives us sort of strong signals, I would say, that tells us, okay, this is what the person is liking, as compared to what he was exploring earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of how do we, I mean, again, at the end of the day, it becomes, okay, so we know what our engagement metrics are. Now, how do you align it, right? So across our product teams, product analytics team, design teams. So the way we look at it in terms of how do we take those metrics, and then how does the team work on it, is what we have started doing is every quarter when we sit down, right, we plan what we want to do next. Obviously, a lot of input signals we get from customer insights, from the data tools, analytic tools we use, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it becomes about, okay, what sort of targets we can take up, right? What sort of where we are headed, and what we have started doing is rather than looking at a single number, okay, so this let's say we can improve this by 10% because we have started breaking it down into two goals: realistic and aspirational. So realistic is where we think, okay, this is where we need to be, irrespective of how we plan, and aspirational is where we can potentially be. So the team is always aligned on the aspirational targets, because as you know, I mean, anybody who has done product management knows there are a lot of features, I mean, which do surprise you, right?
Yeah.
You expecting something else, I mean, all of a sudden you're surprised, right? Okay, so we try to focus on the aspirational part, right? That is where every quarter we are focusing on, and then basically that sort of becomes a framework for all of us within the team to work on.
Right, Sangeet. So my part, I think, as we have worked before, I know that the time spent on the app, generally for the reality websites, that is really important. The purchase you can't make in 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. And sometimes it is also different for the real estate users, the rental users and the home buyers as well. With that, over to you, Shivani. What are your views on these key metrics and the milestone of the users?
I think it's a complicated question, but let me just try and take the second question first, which is what your key milestones are. And before even we step into what the milestones are, I think the first question is it the milestone of the user that you're worried about, or you're worried about the challenges that the user faces in the funnel? Which takes me to the question, where there's an interesting thing that you ask in your question is user's path. And I really love that, because I have this fundamental problem when product managers or growth experts talk about a customer journey. How do we do, how can we have a customer journey? They predict a customer journey. But the fundamental issue here is you cannot have a user journey that is defined day one. Yeah. In my view, there is a customer path, which is a funnel, which every product company visualizes for a user to be taking to unlock success. Mm-hmm. Then customer journey is something which is very unique. If I ask you, how has your journey been, Anand, it will be a very personal experience and specific to every user. Yeah. So what analytics brings on the table is to identify and analyze, and extrapolate, retrospect, and then put all these figures together, do a lot of quantitative analysis to, go to each and every level of customization. Yep. So when you onboard your users, then you see what is the path they are taking versus the path that you prescribe at a company funnel level. And then you see, okay, these are the particular type of user journeys that you're observing, which deviate from the path that you have laid on. And then your attempt is, how can you closely bring the user journey to, come to your happy flow, right? Mm-hmm. So the metrics that becomes very important to crack this product-led growth that we're discussing Then again, varies from company to company. I heard Neeraj and Sangeet talk about it, and it comes from a very customer facing background where the key point of interaction is design and experience. Now let's come to a B2B space where Rapid is, right? Where the key point of interaction is, of course, the landing page, the website where we come to know about, and then the customer or the client decides that we need these payment services. But at the core, it's a partnership model, and it's very very tech heavy experience that we're going to talk about as we deep dive into the customer path, right? So basically, the user or the client of Rapid could be interacting with a lot of sandbox, APIs, technical environment, which does not happen in a B2C model. So again, the customer path that becomes very critical for Rapid to observe would be website visit, sign-ups, onboard, convert, and retain. So when you have defined the path, again, I think people quickly jump to metrics. What I usually would advise is, between the customer path, which is, holistic and optimistic for you, and then to the metrics, you should have your growth drivers or your growth, breakers, speed breakers, very well analyzed in the middle. So when we talk about this journey at Rapid, there are key touch points where the customer interacts and builds his own journey. So the challenges that are there are the growth drivers. So for example, if I would pick a couple of growth drivers, it would be, like website visits, ratings, reviews, or the campaign, how is the campaign responding, or customer onboarding, one-step registration with an email, or was it through another channel? And then an individual metrics alongside of these growth drivers. So the metrics, coming to your first question, which become very, very important for our customer path during the website visit is very standard, right? What is the bounce rate? What is the CTA conversion percentage? Of course, the timing becomes very, very critical. What is the timing spent, and is the discoverability right? During the sign up, I think it's about the numbers, right? Monthly active registrations and, onboarding is here where we differ from B2C, right? This is all about when a customer onboards, they start calling our APIs, they do their backend, they integrate. This is where what becomes important is, number of sandbox signups. Did the call to action work initially in the landing page to land here? So if something breaks in the website, definitely does not break. So the KPIs here would be, probably the emails opened or clicked, time to sandbox to production, time for the first payment. Oh, no, too early. Now let's go to conversion. This, I think, becomes very, very critical for any B2B space or for any fintech or a payment company. Is, because we are all looking for that one time, and the many firsts that we are excited about is when did the first production payment transaction come through. So transactions become very, very important. And this is exactly the customer conversion that we call. So, the first failed transaction or the first successful transaction. And after those first has happened, it becomes very critical to observe time from sandbox to the first transaction. How many then comes the partnership model. How many KYB failures happen, because there are a lot of compliance and regulations that are in the middle of this funnel. Customer support tickets, and I'm very sure it was just missed by the other two, but I think they become very, very critical during the conversion side. Like, in this path from the visit to the conversion, were there support tickets raised? If yes, what were they? What were the priority? Like, were they critical? Were they not critical, right? This gives you a lot of insights to go back and revisit. That comes to your next question, which is the goals. So after we have these two questions and the metrics observed, then what we need to do as a product team, so what happens is we have the numbers, right? And then the key challenges have been identified. And now we know that, okay, this is the customer path, this is the user journey, there is a gap. There's a gap because there are holes here, people are falling and they're not making it to the right kind of funnel. So how do we optimize this funnel? This is where I think the role of product becomes very important and product management becomes very important, because product has a distinctive roadmap and pillars of prioritization. So are the challenges or the metrics talking about something that is live in production, right? So we pick them first. Then, is this a problem that if resolved can, meet the top 3 KPIs? If conversion is my critical KPI and somebody is not even able to sign up for Sandbox, conversion will never happen. So based on, the product prioritization and what's happening live with these numbers, of course, the product managers need to revisit their priority, revisit their roadmap, refine their backlog, and start working on it. So this is how we typically do it.
Yep, yep. So, Shivani, you also spoke a little bit about growth breakers.
Right.
So, I want to understand a little bit about that. How do you identify these growth breakers and how do you address them?
Right. I think a very familiar funnel that everybody talks about or wants to crack is, the R funnel, right? Acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and then revenue,
Yeah.
right? But the funnel is very big in the top and very narrow at the bottom. So the growth drivers are the drivers that come at every stop of the funnel. So when you come to acquisition, right, the metrics could be number of downloads in terms of apps, the installs, or it could be number of visits and registrations for a B2B platform through a website. But the growth drivers that sit in the middle is, app store optimization. Was it done right? Are your ratings and reviews good enough to actually, initiate an acquisition in the first place? How was your paid advertising done? This is where the marketing plays a tremendous role, right? And then, of course, with all this COVID, the entire marketing revamp, the digital versus the traditional marketing, all these growth drivers are the new players that have come in. When you move to activation, the growth drivers would be customer onboarding, one-step registration with email or Facebook or etc. platforms, right? This is where your tie-ups are. Coming to retention, it could be a proactive communication, it could be loyalty campaigns, it could be push notifications, or the engagement, the ads that you do. Referral, if I could think of, would be, of course, everybody wants more organic referrals, save the cost, save the company's money, right? But rating prompts, recommendations, one-click sharing, is there a share option for WhatsApp, LinkedIn, other forums, right? Social contacts become supremely important, hence the integrations. That's why I say a lot of tech in the start of the funnel becomes very important to drive the bottom of the funnel. Last but not least, revenue. Everybody wants to talk about it. And the growth drivers here is definitely sales and promotions, downloadable content, personalization, supremely important. If you were able to define the user journey from your user path, and if you've identified the user journey, were you able to segment the users and build personalization, right? And I think last but not the least, conversion, which is where payment becomes very, very critical for any other B2C product. Because, in the end of the day, if somebody's not paying, somebody's not making money. So these would be the growth drivers.
Thanks, Shivani. It was really in-depth and insightful. I would be happy that our viewers would got to know a lot of things from this one question. So, Sangeet, I would want to ask you that how does the product manager at Housing, how do they use analytics or insights and drive or help the marketing team or the growth teams to drive the engagement better? Or do they also get into the shoes of a marketer and fire of the campaigns?
Yeah. Good question, Anand. So see, in terms of leveraging user insights analytics, I think broadly people do it in different in different ways. One of our learnings I would focus more on is anytime you're thinking about a feature or any new feedback that comes in from the market, is we have started asking the question, okay, let's assume we go ahead with it, right? These are the changes and stuff we are planning. How do we measure what impact we have created, right? Post release. Yeah. So we start thinking, okay, what will happen after 3 months, and how will we measure that? And then once we start asking the question, sort of a lot of things start streamlining. First of all, we know, okay, we need to know where we stand, right? So we start digging into data in terms of, okay, where we stand, what are the right, let's say, sub metrics or sub goals we're looking at. So that's one thing. Priority, I think we get a lot of clarity in terms of the priority. Is it something that's really that important, or is there something else which is a bigger problem that we need to focus on? So that sort of has become our framework, right? We usually know, okay, this is what the feedback is, this is what we can potentially do. But once as I mentioned, once we start asking, okay, let's assume we do this, how will you measure? That sort of starts answering a lot of questions in a more data-driven way, rather than people forming opinions within the group, right? Which may or may not pan out. That's one piece, and I think the second piece I would talk about is the whole experimentation framework, right? Obviously, I mean, a lot of companies are at different levels in terms of how they experiment, but I think this is something that we have sincerely worked on in the last 2-3 years. At any point in time on a platform, we are running 20 to 25 live experiments at any point in time, right? Yeah. So the whole testing framework, the quicker you evolve that, the more freedom you have in terms of the decision making, right? So that essentially helps us. I mean, open the roadmap in terms of what we can do, what we cannot do, without worrying too much in terms of the consequences. So I think having a very healthy experimentation framework is super critical for that, Anand.
So Sangeet, we have a question from Amit that sometimes we do see some duplicate listings on housing.com. And from the product perspective, how you guys working towards that to make a better experience for the end user?
Yeah. So see, if you look at the overall real estate market in India, right, it's still evolving. It's still a bit unorganized in terms of the content that is there in the market, right? If you compare with, let's say, a market in the US or the UK or Australia, where there are certain MLS systems which would drive the content, right? So in the Indian context, and especially for us, this has been a problem that we've been working on constantly, right?
Yeah.
A lot of improvements we have made over time. For example, so what we do is we try to look at different signals. The first signal obviously is the crowdsourced data, right? So when users, let's say, don't find a content, so for any classified platform, having the right content becomes a big problem there. So first, as I mentioned, user generated content, people can report instantly, right? Let's say if they find a content which is not actually true, or let's say as the person asked, it's actually duplicate. And in that case, right, usually duplicate means it's not genuine, right? Is essentially what I see is not what I get when I talk to the agent or even the homeowner. So a lot of signals we use from the customer side, given the scale of our platform, right? The whole given the sort of top big demand we have and sort of supply we have, so that those input definitely helps us prioritize our relevance logics and everything. So that's one big piece there. Apart from that, we also do a lot of agent engagement programs on the supply side, right?
Yeah.
We try to educate them in terms of, okay, what are the benefits of keeping your listings right, in terms of building trust, because again, see, real estate is a big ticket item, right? Obviously for the customer, but also for the agents. So keeping the right content, ensuring your content listings are up to date. That's sort of an education we try to drive amongst the agent community. And I think this is something that as I mentioned, improved a lot of things on, but we're still sort of far behind in terms of where it can be potentially.
Sure, sir. Yeah. So, Neeraj, on the same line, how the product team at Samsung drives the engagement using analytics? Do they also experiment a lot, as Sangeet is mentioning, or do they closely work with marketing and then also handle the campaigns?
Yeah, so Anand, I think product manager play typically a multiple role. We also create campaign, we run the campaign, we track the campaign. So it's like a all perspective are being touched by the and are made product manager are made responsible for it now. So just to give some examples, let's say, right, as a Samsung, typically I know typically what is the age of the user's device now, right? Since how long this user has been using device. So we typically predict this is the time the user may go for upgrade of his phone, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, that's time we target that user that, oh, it's time for your upgrade. Why don't you? And we know what is the source model that he is, right? He's on a low tier, mid tier, or flagship kind of a model. Based on that, we propose or recommend the user what next model to upgrade for. And there are very amazing benefits in terms of loyalty we offer for such an upgrade program. That's one way, like we utilize the simple insights of age of the device by the user.
Yeah.
The second example to quote is, let's say, right, we offer the content propositions as part of My Galaxy now, right, where people consume videos of all languages, news in all languages, music in all languages, and games, right? So it's like all in one. It's a big plethora of content that we offer. But it's very important that can I derive what are the user personas would be based on these insights, right? Okay. So just to give you exact example, like people who are playing games, right? People who are watching more thriller contents, right? They are serious gamers actually. That's good to derive for, right?
Yeah.
If I want to recommend them the Samsung product to buy, it's going to be another gaming phone with high performance kind of a engine built into it, right? So that's another way how we utilize insight and create a targeted consumer, right?
Okay.
Another example to quote it, right? Let's say on a Samsung Pay side, right? We've seen that users has understood what Samsung Pay proposition is, right? But what if, like, how do I add more additional engagement points to his life? So we look at what are the different events, right? For example, it's a Raksha Bandhan or it's a salary day, right? There are some ways you could gift your loved ones, or you could on a salary day you could check the balance, right? Even if I
Okay, I think somehow we lost Neeraj. Okay,
Cool. We
cool.
can continue.
So we'll move to Shivani. I think Neeraj would join as his connection is correct. So Shivani, in your case, how the product managers are driving engagement? Are they also running the campaigns with the help of marketing?
Right. So I think product managers have a role to play across the campaign. Let me just try and answer this question from a pre-campaign time to an ongoing campaign time to a post-campaign time, right? What is the role of a product manager before a campaign is run? Before a campaign is run, I think product managers put a very strong force on the narrative of what the product capability is and what the campaign is about. And from an existing historical data, which is how the users have been performing or discovering a particular product in the past, and what have been the supporting tickets, helping the market, working very closely with the marketers to put out a campaign in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think product managers are and this is sadly, I think people always discuss about things that comes to the TRP value of it, that is in the front face, but people do not talk about what goes on backstage. So I think before the campaign, a lot of work goes into brainstorm these campaigns, put it together with the right narrative. And that's where product managers play an immense role, right? Because sometimes these questions, and especially for a technical or a B2B platform, these can get very technical and very complicated. So think about a fintech platform, which has to deal with compliance, or regulatory partners might have to deal with a KYC onboarding, ID upload platform, and then might have to deal with a couple of fraud platforms, right? So it might just get too technical for just marketer to handle the onboarding campaigns alone, when you know that most of the product users who would be landing up on the campaign would be probably developers across the world, right? So that becomes a pre-campaign. During the campaign, I think what becomes relatively important is, to keep monitoring the dashboards, So working closely with the product analyst team and the marketing team to, derive the right kind of dashboards, pulling in the right kind of data, and, putting the graphs and numbers to a meaningful derivable goals, as we were discussing in the last question. That becomes relatively important. Last but not the least, I think I strongly have seen with the growth of Grab in my past life and now at Rapid, analytics do not really mean much without understanding the why behind it, right? Like, it's good to have a lot of quant, a lot of figures, but then why do people actually go for heat maps? Because qualitative data is actually very, very important to derive the right kind of conclusions, So, to understand the why behind the numbers, you might have to do a qualitative user testing, right? To understand why users are getting stuck, or why are users actually trying to take a particular roadside, I think in the previous session, they were talking about a lot of people were spending 30 minutes to find discount for purchasing a transaction, like doing a transaction or purchasing a service, right? So, to understand that why, you have to actually see the user performing certain things. Back in the non-COVID times, we could have gone into a mall, done some user research, or, called for users in-house. We could have done that at a Samsung retail store, Apple retail store, but those days are gone. Yep. So I think it becomes, a very, very important how because product managers are the ones who are the voice of the product. And if they do not, and there is a lot of data lost when somebody else goes and does the user research and comes back and tells the product manager. So sometimes I think live user testing becomes very important. In these world, you could do a virtual testing, or you could monitor how the user is performing across the website live, right? So we often go and call our couple of our good clients who have shown good volume, and we would want to do a virtual, onboarding them. If you're launching a new product, we would, instead of just going and launching it all over the market, we would want to do a beta, right, with our selected clients and see the journey. So these are the three phases where I think product managers add a lot of value to, campaign and actually deriving those engagement figures.
Sure. So Sangeet, Shivani, and Neeraj, it was really insightful session, at least for me and the viewers that we have. So guys, tune in for the next session that is coming up, which is everything you need to know about the product-driven engagement. With this, we'll leave you for the next session. Take care. Bye-bye.